It's no secret that the longer a movie franchise goes, the harder it gets to keep coming up with new ideas that will keep audiences coming back. Sometimes franchises will change main characters, sometimes they'll reboot the series from the beginning, and sometimes they will do the unthinkable and head to space, a move that many consider to be the proverbial nail in the coffin of any worn-out franchise that's desperate to make a dollar before it loses all of its relevance. James Bond did it, Superman did it, Fast and the Furious did it, and in 2002, Friday the 13th did it by setting the movie in the distant future, bringing Jason onto a spaceship, and once again, having him tear apart a bunch of really stupid people. So, did Jason X manage to breathe new life into a franchise that had long been on life support, or was it more like this? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Do you like premarital sex?
We love premarital sex!
Well, then I've got a movie made just for you. Lock your doors and make out with your favorite sex robot kids as we take a spoiler-heavy look at Jason X. So, Jason X starts like any great Friday the 13th movie at Crystal Lake, where Jason is being held captive by the military in a top research facility that, judging from all the water on the floor, is suffering from some sort of plumbing issue.
Do not go in there. Woo!
And this is also where we meet our main character, Rowan, who is in charge of making sure that Jason goes into cryogenic stasis as a way of preventing him from harming other people. However, before she can put Jason on ice for good, she is stopped by Dr. Wormer, who wants to study Jason's ability to regenerate and use that research for military application.
His unique ability to regenerate lost and damaged tissue. I mean, it cries out for more research.
Now, is this motivation by the military stupid? Yes, it is. Is this the worst idea I've ever heard in a movie? No, it's not.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Anyway, as you can imagine, it doesn't take long for things to go horribly wrong, as we see Jason take out his first victims of the movie. This guy gets hit in the head with a wrench. This guy gets a chain wrapped around his neck, and Dr. Wormer gets impaled from behind, and not in the fun way. But luckily for Rowan, this general is thrown through a door with a loaded shotgun resting gently on his chest, which comes in handy when it's time to shoot Jason into his cryopod. As Jason begins to freeze, we then learn that the cryopod is apparently made of paper mache, which is why Jason is able to cut through it so easily, stabbing Rowan in the stomach and causing the cryo chamber to go into lockdown, which freezes Rowan and Jason together.
Freeze well!
We then fast forward to the distant future, and we see that New Jersey is now a barren wasteland where nothing grows and it's incapable of sustaining life. So, pretty much exactly how it is now. And this is where we also meet a group of college students who are on an interplanetary field trip looking for artifacts, all of whom are dressed in clothing that seems inappropriate for space travel and who make up most of our characters for this movie. There's Professor Lowe, KM-14, who is an android, Azrael, Sonoron, Kinsa, Adrian, and Sergeant Brodsky. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, wow, this is way too many characters. There's no way I could possibly keep up with all of them. Well, considering that most of them are just going to end up like this, I wouldn't worry about it too much. As the students begin looking around the abandoned research facility, they find the cryo chamber, where Jason is still frozen. They also find Rowan, who, despite being frozen, seems to be succumbing to her injuries. So, determined to save her life, the team decides to bring her and Jason onto their spaceship, something that Lou, the pilot, is very happy to hear about.
Female. Yeah.
Back on the ship, the professor has Rowan taken to the medical bay, where they use nanobots to repair her injuries, while his assistant, Adrian, begins thawing out Jason's body, preparing it for an autopsy, a task that normally wouldn't take too much time if the other members of her team, Janessa and Stoney, weren't incredibly horny, a situation that will inevitably cause Janessa to take a shot of fluids to the face. After the nanobots finish working on Rowan, she wakes up refreshed and ready to start the day. But she is shocked to learn that she's been asleep for over 400 years. All of her friends and loved ones are dead, and she's now the oldest woman alive.
MILF.
Back in the lab, we see that Adrian is still hard at work on Jason's autopsy, even as the smell of sex permeates the air, an odor that Jason knows all too well, causing him to awake from his icy slumber and give Adrian a quick lesson in thermodynamics.
Freeze!
So now Jason begins his futuristic reign of terror by walking through what can only be described as questionable set design, where he kills a few people in rapid succession in various ways, like stabbing, smashing their face in, and chiropractic adjustment.
Feel that release in your penal region?
After finding Adrian's dead body, the ship goes into emergency lockdown, and Sergeant Brodsky gathers his security team, known as the Grunts, and gets them ready to hunt down Jason and kill him on sight. But this isn't your typical security team like in your local mall. This is a group of battle-hardened professionals who are here to demonstrate all the skills and knowledge that they've acquired over the decades, like walking slowly down hallways, martial arts, and being killed incredibly quickly.
Sarge, we found Condor.
What's his condition?
He's screwed.
Back in the control room, the rest of the crew informs the ship's engineer, a pirate of some kind named Crutch, that all the Grunts are dead, news that is so devastating that he can barely keep his emotions in check.
Oh, man.
Hoping that the security team on the Solaris space station will be able to stop Jason for good, the professor asks the ship's pilot, Lou, when they will arrive. And luckily for them, they are just moments away. But unluckily for them, Jason shows up, which causes this to happen. With the space station destroyed, all hope seems lost, as Jason sets his sights on the rest of the crew, resulting in the professor being killed off screen and the rest of the team coming up with a plan.
What is it?
To use the smaller landing craft as a lifeboat and radio for help as soon as they're a safe distance away from the larger ship. A plan that actually seems to be working. Well, until Jason shows up and kills Crutch, which spooks Janessa into proving that even in the distant future, women still can't be trusted behind the wheel. So, once again, the crew faces certain death, and honestly, at this point, I think the only thing that can save them is an android who's dressed in black leather and carries lots of guns. But where are they going to find one of those? Anyway, EM-14 shoots Jason, and then shoots him again, and again, and again, and you know what? Let's speed this part up. With Jason now in pieces, and the revelation that Sergeant Brodsky is still alive, the crew goes back to lab number 2 so the nanobots can get to work on repairing the sergeant's injuries. However, there's no time to rest, as they realize that the ship is starting to fall apart due to all the damage it took when it collided with the space station. So, once again, they come up with a plan to separate the damaged part of the ship from the rest of it by setting off explosive. But there's just one small problem. The nanobots have also resurrected Jason and turned him into Uber Jason, or, well, that's what the action figure is called anyway, which, yes, is a stupid name, but a hilarious visual. Anyway, Jason then punches EM-14's head off, and then kills this guy, whose name I honestly can't remember, who sets off the explosives, separating the two sides of the ship. But, as we all know by now, that's not enough to stop this new and improved Jason, who is now able to punch through the ship's hull with ease, which causes explosive decompression, and causes Kenza to give a review of The Last Jedi for some reason.
This sucks on so many levels!
After Kenza is turned into goo, and the rest of the crew is able to seal off the ship, they receive a call from another ship that has docked with theirs, offering them a means of escape. But the escape hatch is stuck, and will have to be opened from the outside. So, the rest of the crew will have to distract Jason long enough for Brodsky to get the door open. Luckily, EM-14 has data files on Crystal Lake for some reason, and with Sonoran's help, is able to make a holodeck environment that makes Jason a virtual Crystal Lake, full of all the things that make it the summer camp that we all know and love, like comfortable cabins, slutty campers, and hilarious moments for the whole family. Thankfully, the distraction works long enough for everyone to get aboard the rescue ship. Then Jason and Brodsky have one more face-off as the ship explodes. To their collective dismay, they see Jason flying right towards the rescue ship, but luckily Brodsky is there to stop Jason and send him crashing to the surface of a distant planet. And that's it. The movie is over, and when it's all said and done, the movie we end up with is bad. The acting stinks, the costumes are awful, the sets are cheap, and the score is terrible. Yeah, it's really safe to say that across every measurable metric, this movie is terrible. But there's one thing that saves it from being a complete waste of time, and that's the fact that the movie doesn't really take itself very seriously. And honestly, that was the best route that this movie could take, because by 2002, no one was taking this franchise seriously. And when you consider the fact that Jason had already been to Manhattan, he had been to hell, and he was going to face Freddy in the following year, there was really nothing left for this movie to do. It's obvious that the writers and director knew that they were making the next to last movie in a dying franchise, so why not lean into the stupidity of it all?
It's gonna take more than a poke in the ribs to put down this old dog. That ought to do it.
If nothing else, it kind of makes the movie critic-proof because, after all, how can you be critical of a movie that's made by people who are aware that it's probably not going to be good to begin with? However, one area that I will levy some criticism on is the kills, and that's because most of them aren't very good. In fact, a great majority of them happen off screen, and the ones we do see tend to be bloodless, which is really too bad. After all, since they decided to lean into the silliness inherent in the franchise, then interesting kills would have been a great way to do that. But despite this issue, they did manage to make one of the most iconic kills in the franchise, and that's when Jason freezes Adrian's head and then smashes it onto the counter. I wish they would have done more stuff like that, but unfortunately they didn't. So at the end of the day, would I recommend this movie? Well, not really, maybe. If you're going to have a group of friends over and watch some scary movies, then fitting this in between two more serious or hardcore horror films could work. It would give you a break and something to laugh at while you're eating some pizza, but other than that, I would say skip it. However, if you do want to give this movie a look, it's available for purchase or rental on YouTube, Google Play, and Amazon Prime.